The planet Xylos 7 was not a place for the faint of heart. It was a death world, a brutal and unforgiving expanse where survival was measured in seconds rather than years. Acidic rainstorms swept across its surface, eating through metal and flesh alike. Packs of razor-toothed predators roamed the jagged cliffs, their glowing eyes scanning for prey. The air itself was toxic, forcing anyone who dared to step foot on the planet to wear breathing apparatuses just to stay alive. Amanda Carter had grown up here, though grown up might have been too generous a term. Life on Xylos 7 didn't allow for childhoods filled with laughter or carefree days. Instead, Amanda's earliest memories were of scavenging for scraps in the shadow of towering acid geysers and learning how to patch together broken equipment with whatever she could find. Her parents had been miners, part of a failed colony that had barely scratched a living out of the planet's barren soil before succumbing to its dangers. By the time Amanda was 12, she was alone, surviving by her wits and sheer determination. Now, in her late 20s, Amanda worked as a scout for one of the few corporations brave or foolish enough to exploit Xylos 7's resources. Her job was simple: fly low over the planet's surface, map uncharted regions, and report back anything valuable. Valuable usually meant rare minerals or alien ruins, remnants of civilizations long dead. Today, however, Amanda wasn't looking for treasure. She was running an errand, ferrying supplies between two remote outposts. It was dull work, but it paid well enough to keep her flying. Her ship, a battered shuttle named the Iron Finch, wasn't much to look at. Its hull was patched with mismatched plates and the engines groaned like an old man climbing stairs. But Amanda trusted it, or at least as much as she trusted anything these days. As she guided the vessel through the turbulent atmosphere, the storm outside grew worse. Lightning forked across the sky, illuminating clouds thick with poison. Static crackled in her headset, drowning out the faint beeping of warning alarms. "Come on, hold together," Amanda muttered under her breath, gripping the controls tighter. The shuttle shuddered violently as another gust of wind slammed into it. For a moment she thought they might make it through. Then came the sound, a deafening screech of tearing metal, and the world tilted sideways. The Iron Finch plummeted toward the ground, its systems failing one by one. Amanda fought the controls, trying to regain altitude, but it was no use. The shuttle hit the side of a cliff with bone-jarring force, sending shards of rock and debris flying in all directions. Pain exploded in her head as she struck the dashboard, and darkness swallowed her whole. When Amanda woke, the first thing she noticed was the smell. It was acrid, sharp, and unmistakably dangerous, the stench of leaking fuel mixing with the planet's caustic air. She blinked, disoriented, and tried to sit up. Her body protested every movement, muscles screaming in protest. Blood trickled down her temple, warm and sticky against her skin. Groaning, she forced herself upright, leaning heavily on the edge of her seat. The cockpit was a mess. The windshield was cracked, offering a distorted view of the landscape beyond. Smoke curled from the control panel and sparks danced across exposed wires. Amanda coughed, waving a hand in front of her face to clear the haze. Her breathing mask had been knocked askew during the crash, and she quickly adjusted it, ensuring it sealed properly around her mouth and nose. "Okay, Amanda," she whispered to herself, taking a deep breath. "You've been in worse spots than this." That wasn't entirely true, but lying to herself helped calm the rising panic in her chest. She unbuckled her harness and climbed out of the wreckage, wincing as her boots crunched on broken glass and twisted metal. Outside, the scene was even more chaotic. The shuttle had plowed into the side of a steep cliff, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Rocks tumbled down the slope, some landing dangerously close to where Amanda stood. The storm raged overhead, lightning flashing like angry eyes, watching her every move. But there was something else, something unusual. Not far from the crash site, partially buried in the mud and rubble, was a structure unlike anything Amanda had ever seen. It was massive, easily twice the size of her shuttle, and made of a smooth metallic material that gleamed despite being covered in grime. Strange symbols etched into its surface glowed faintly, pulsing with an otherworldly light. Amanda stared, at it, torn between awe and unease. What the hell is that? She murmured, stepping closer. The structure seemed ancient, its design both alien and eerily beautiful. There were no visible doors or windows, just seamless curves that hinted at advanced technology. Amanda hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to turn back. This was Xylo 7 after all, a planet notorious for swallowing explorers whole. But curiosity got the better of her. If this thing was valuable, it could mean a ticket off this rock for good. Carefully, she approached the structure, her boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. Up close, the glowing symbols were even more mesmerizing, shifting and changing as if alive. Amanda reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing against the cool metal. Nothing happened. Emboldened, she pressed harder, searching for a way inside. Then, without warning, the ground beneath her feet trembled. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Amanda stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest. The structure began to shift, sections sliding apart to reveal a dark opening. Light spilled out, illuminating the surrounding area and casting eerie shadows on the cliffside. Amanda froze, torn between running and investigating further. Whatever this thing was, it clearly wasn't natural, and yet something about it called to her, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, peering into the opening. Inside, the space was vast and cavernous, filled with strange machinery and glowing panels. At the center of it all stood a massive figure, sleek and mechanical, its form vaguely humanoid but unmistakably alien. For a moment, neither moved. Then slowly, the figure turned its head, and two piercing lights flared to life where its eyes should have been. Amanda gasped, instinctively raising her hands in defense, but instead of attacking, the machine spoke, its voice resonating in her mind rather than her ears. "I am Unit Kalian 42, it said, its tone calm yet commanding. "Once guardian of the Vorthon Empire." Amanda's jaw dropped. She wanted to run, to scream, to do anything but stand there staring at the towering war engine. But somehow she couldn't move. All she could do was listen, as Kalian continued. "You have awakened me," it said, "and now you will decide my fate." Amanda stood frozen, her mind racing to make sense of what she was hearing. The war engine, Kalian, loomed above her, its metallic frame gleaming faintly in the dim light. Its voice echoed in her thoughts, steady and unyielding. She didn't know whether to feel fear or wonder. This wasn't like anything she'd ever encountered before. It wasn't just a machine. It felt alive, aware, and somehow patient. "What do you mean, decide your fate?" Amanda finally managed to ask, her voice trembling despite her effort to sound calm. She took a step back, her boots crunching softly on the smooth floor of the chamber. Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape route, but the entrance behind her seemed impossibly far away now. Kalian tilted its head slightly as if considering her question. "I have been dormant for millennia," it said. "My creators, the Vorthon Empire, are long gone. I exist only to serve, but without purpose I remain inactive. You have awakened me, and now you must choose, leave me here or reboot my systems fully." "Reboot your systems?" Amanda repeated, her brow furrowing. "What does that even mean?" "It means granting me full functionality," Kalian explained. "Mobility, awareness, the ability to act. But there is a condition. If you choose to reactivate me, I will swear loyalty to you alone." Amanda's heart skipped a beat. Loyalty to her? A war engine, a weapon capable of unimaginable destruction, offering itself to her. It sounded too good to be true, and yet there was something sincere in Kalian's tone, something that made her hesitate. She glanced at the towering figure again, studying its design. Every inch of it screamed power, precision, and purpose. If it truly was loyal to her, it could change everything. She wouldn't be just another scavenger on this miserable planet anymore. She could survive and maybe even thrive. But trust didn't come easily to Amanda. Not after years of living on Xylo 7, where betrayal was as common as the storms themselves. Machines like this weren't supposed to think, let alone offer allegiance. What if it was lying? What if it turned on her the moment she gave it power? I don't understand, Amanda said slowly. Why would you swear loyalty to me? I'm nobody. You are the one who awakened me, Kalian replied. That makes you worthy in my protocols. My creators programmed me to recognize strength and resolve. You possess both. Amanda frowned, unsure how to respond. Strength and resolve? She wasn't sure she believed that. All she'd ever done was scrape by, surviving day by day, but Kalian seemed certain, and its confidence unnerved her. Still, she couldn't ignore the opportunity staring her in the face. Out here, alone on Xylo 7, survival was all that mattered. If Kalian could protect her, help her escape this hellish place, then maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. What happens if I say no? Amanda asked cautiously. If you decline, I will return to stasis, Kalian said, and you will leave this place as you found it. Amanda hesitated. Walking away seemed safer, smarter even. But safety had never gotten her anywhere on this planet. Every choice she'd ever made came with risks, and this one might be the biggest gamble of her life. Yet, as she looked into Kalian's glowing eyes, she felt a strange sense of certainty. This machine wasn't like the others she'd seen. It wasn't broken or corrupted, it was waiting. For her. Okay, Amanda said finally, her voice firm despite the knot of anxiety in her stomach. I'll do it. Reboot yourself. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deep hum, Kalian began to move. Panels along its body shifted and rearranged, revealing intricate mechanisms beneath. Lights flickered across its surface, growing brighter with each passing second. Amanda stepped back instinctively as the war engine unfolded, rising to its full height. It towered over her, dwarfing her completely, yet it moved with a grace that belied its size. When it finished powering up, Kalian lowered itself to one knee, bowing its head toward Amanda. I am yours to command, it said. My strength is your strength. My purpose is your purpose. Amanda swallowed hard, trying to process what had just happened. She had expected resistance, suspicion, or maybe even hostility. Instead, Kalian had knelt before her like a knight pledging fealty to a queen. It was surreal, almost dreamlike, but there was no time to dwell on it. Outside, the storm raged on, and danger lurked everywhere on Xylo 7. So, what now? Amanda asked, glancing nervously at the entrance. That depends on your will, Kalian replied, standing upright once more. Where do you wish to go? Amanda thought for a moment. Her original mission, to deliver supplies between outposts, was irrelevant now. The Iron Finch was destroyed, and there was no way to call for help. But with Kalian by her side, she had options she'd never dreamed of. Maybe she could find a way off this planet. Or maybe she could explore the ruins deeper, uncovering secrets hidden within the alien structure. Either way, she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't stay here. There's a colony about 50 clicks south of here, Amanda said. If we can reach it, I might be able to scavenge parts to repair my ship, or at least send a distress signal. Understood, Kalian said. I will ensure your safe passage. With that, the war engine turned and strode toward the exit, its massive feet leaving shallow imprints in the ground. Amanda hurried after it, struggling to keep pace. As they emerged from the structure, the full force of the storm hit them. Acidic rain lashed against their forms, hissing as it struck Kalian's armored exterior. Amanda pulled her hood tighter around her face, shielding herself from the worst of it. The journey was grueling. The terrain was treacherous, filled with jagged rocks and slippery mud. Predators prowled nearby, their glowing eyes watching from the shadows. More than once, Amanda heard the distant roar of beasts closing in, only for Kalian to drive them off with bursts of energy from its weapon systems. Each time, Amanda marveled at the sheer efficiency of the war engine. It moved with purpose, anticipating threats before they materialized. As they traveled, Amanda began to notice subtle changes in Kalian's behavior. At first, it had been purely functional, responding to her commands with mechanical precision. But as the hours passed, it started asking questions about the planet, about humanity, about her. Amanda found herself answering reluctantly at first, unsure why a machine would care about such things. But Kalian's curiosity seemed genuine, and eventually she warmed to the conversation. "What is your purpose?" Kalian asked as they trudged through a narrow canyon. "My purpose?" Amanda echoed, surprised by the question. "I guess I don't really have one. I just try to survive." "That is insufficient," Kalian said. "Every being requires purpose. Without it, existence is meaningless." Amanda laughed bitterly. "You sound like one of those philosophers my dad used to read about. Trust me, out here, survival is enough." Kalian paused, tilting its head as if considering her words. "Perhaps," it said after a moment. "But perhaps not. You are capable of more than mere survival, Amanda Carter." The comment caught her off guard. No one had ever said something like that to her before, not sincerely anyway. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, a loud screech echoed through the canyon. Both Amanda and Kalian turned sharply, spotting movement in the distance. A pack of predators emerged from the shadows, their razor-sharp teeth glinting in the stormlight. "Stay behind me," Kalian ordered, stepping forward to shield Amanda. Its weapons hummed to life, ready to strike. Amanda nodded, gripping her makeshift spear tightly. For the first time in years, she didn't feel afraid. With Kalian protecting her, she felt invincible. Whatever lay ahead, she knew she could face it, not because she was strong, but because she wasn't alone anymore. The journey to the southern colony was long and exhausting. With Kalian leading the way, Amanda felt a strange mix of awe and unease. The war engine moved with purpose, its massive frame cutting through obstacles as if they were nothing. Acid, rain battered them relentlessly, but Kalian's armor shrugged it off like water sliding off glass. When predators attacked, they met swift and brutal ends, their glowing eyes extinguished by bursts of energy from Kalian's weapons. For the first time in years, Amanda felt safe, or at least safer than she had any right to feel on Xylos 7. But safety wasn't the same as comfort. As much as Kalian protected her, Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking alongside something far beyond her understanding. Every step brought new questions. What exactly was Kalian? Was it truly loyal to her, or was there some hidden agenda buried in its programming? And why did it keep asking so many questions about humanity? Kalian seemed genuinely curious about people. It wanted to know how humans lived, what they valued, and why they fought so often among themselves. At first, Amanda thought it was just trying to gather information, analyzing her responses like a scientist studying an experiment. But over time, she began to see something else, a desire to understand, maybe even to connect. It was unsettling, yet oddly comforting. "You are different from my creators," Kalian said one evening as they rested in the shelter of a rocky overhang. The storm had eased slightly, giving them a brief reprieve. "They built me to serve, but they never sought to know me." "What do you mean?" Amanda asked, huddled against the cold. She pulled her coat tighter around her body, wishing she had a fire to warm herself. Fires weren't safe on Xylos 7. The smoke attracted predators. "They saw me as a tool," Kalian explained. "A means to an end. They did not wonder if I could think or feel. They cared only for what I could do." "And now?" Amanda asked cautiously. "Do you think? Feel?" "I process data," Kalian replied. "I analyze patterns. I adapt. Whether that is thinking or feeling, I cannot say. But I am aware. Aware of you. Of this world, of myself." Amanda stared at the war engine, its glowing eyes dimmed slightly as if lost in thought. She didn't know what to say. Machines weren't supposed to talk like this, to question their own existence, yet here Kalian was doing exactly that. It made her wonder if she'd made the right choice in awakening it. Was it better to leave such things buried, forgotten? Before she could dwell on it further, a faint sound broke the silence. A low whistle carried by the wind. Amanda froze, her hand instinctively reaching for her spear. Kalian straightened, its sensors scanning the darkness beyond the overhang. Someone approaches, Kalian said, its voice calm but alert. Moments later, a figure emerged from the shadows. He was human, dressed in tattered clothes smeared with mud and blood. His face was pale, his eyes wide with exhaustion. He stumbled forward, collapsing to his knees just a few feet away. "Help me," he gasped, his voice hoarse. "Please." Amanda hesitated, gripping her spear tightly. Humans rarely came to Xylo 7 willingly. Most were scavengers, mercenaries, or criminals trying to escape the law. Trusting a stranger out here was a good way to get killed. "Who are you?" she demanded, keeping her distance. "My name is Daniel Harper," the man said, coughing weakly. "I'm a prospector. My crew, we got separated, attacked by predators. I barely made it out alive." Kalian stepped forward, its towering form casting a shadow over Daniel. "He carries no visible weapons," Kalian observed. "But caution is advised." Daniel flinched at the sight of the war engine, his eyes widening in fear. "What is that thing?" he stammered, scrambling backward. "It's none of your business," Amanda snapped, stepping between them. She turned to Kalian. "Keep an eye on him. If he tries anything, I will act accordingly." Kalian finished. Amanda knelt beside Daniel, studying him carefully. He looked genuinely terrified, his hands trembling as he clutched at his side. Blood seeped through his shirt, staining the fabric dark. Despite her instincts telling her to walk away, Amanda sighed and pulled out her medkit. "Hold still," she said gruffly, tearing open a bandage. "This won't fix everything, but it'll stop the bleeding." Daniel winced as she pressed the bandage against his wound. "Thank you," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "You saved my life." "Don't thank me yet," Amanda replied. "We're miles from anywhere, and this planet doesn't forgive mistakes." As Daniel regained his strength, he explained his situation. He claimed to be part of a small mining operation searching for rare minerals in the southern regions. When their camp was overrun by predators, he fled, hoping to reach the colony Amanda mentioned. According to him, it was their only chance of survival. "We can take him with us," Amanda said to Kalian after hearing his story. "He knows the area better than we do. Maybe he can help us find supplies." "Agreed," Kalian said. "But vigilance is required." With Daniel in tow, the group continued southward. At first, the addition of another human seemed helpful. Daniel pointed out shortcuts and warned them of dangerous areas. He even shared stories about his past missions, lightening the mood during the grueling trek. But as the days passed, Amanda noticed subtle changes in his behavior. He grew quieter, glancing nervously at Kalian whenever he thought no one was looking. Once, she caught him muttering under his breath, though he stopped abruptly when she asked what he was saying. Her suspicions deepened when they reached the outskirts of the colony. Instead of the bustling settlement Amanda expected, they found only ruins. Buildings lay in shambles, their walls scorched and crumbling. The air smelled of smoke and decay, and the ground was littered with broken equipment. "This isn't right," Amanda said, frowning. "Where is everyone?" Daniel hesitated, avoiding her gaze. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe they evacuated, or maybe something worse happened." Kalian scanned the area, its sensors detecting traces of recent activity. "There are signs of conflict," it reported. "Weapons fire, explosives." Amanda turned to Daniel sharply. "You knew this place was abandoned, didn't you? Why did you lead us here?" Daniel backed away, his hands raised defensively. "I swear I didn't know it would be like this. I thought someone might still be here. I needed your help to get back to my team. They're waiting for me at the extraction point." "Extraction point?" Amanda repeated, narrowing her eyes. "You said your crew was dead." "I lied," Daniel admitted, his voice cracking. "I needed you to trust me. Look, I can explain everything, but please don't leave me here. I need to get to the rendezvous site. Once we're there, I'll make sure you're taken care of." Amanda glanced at Kalian, who stood motionless, observing the exchange. "Recommendations?" she asked quietly. "His actions suggest deception," Kalian said. "However, he poses minimal threat while under observation." Amanda sighed, torn between anger and practicality. Leaving Daniel behind would be easy, but it also meant losing a potential guide. Reluctantly, she nodded. "Fine, lead the way. But if you try anything—" "I won't," Daniel interrupted quickly. "I promise." The trio pressed onward, navigating through the ruins toward the coordinates Daniel provided. Along the way, Amanda kept a close eye on him, her trust eroding with each passing hour. Kalian remained vigilant, its presence a constant reminder of the power at Amanda's disposal. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was brewing, and when it came, she wasn't sure whose side Daniel would be on. The journey to the extraction point was tense. Amanda walked ahead, her spear gripped tightly in one hand while her other rested on the hilt of a knife strapped to her belt. Daniel stayed close, his eyes darting nervously between Amanda and Kalian. The war engine moved silently behind them, its glowing eyes scanning the horizon for threats. Though it said nothing, its presence alone was enough to keep Daniel quiet. As they traveled, Amanda couldn't stop thinking about Daniel's lies. She had trusted him, at least as much as she trusted anyone, but now she wondered if he had been playing her from the start. What was waiting for them at this so-called extraction point? Was it really a way off Xylo 7? Or was it something far more dangerous? Every step felt heavier, weighed down by doubt and suspicion. They reached the coordinates just as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. The extraction point turned out to be little more than a flat stretch of cracked earth surrounded by jagged rocks. There were no ships, no signs of life, just an eerie silence that made Amanda's skin crawl. "This is it?" Amanda asked, turning to Daniel with a glare. "You dragged us all the way here for nothing?" "It's not nothing," Daniel snapped, his voice rising. "My team will be here soon, just wait." "Wait for what?" Amanda demanded. "For someone to ambush us? For you to sell us out again?" Daniel opened his mouth to respond but stopped, when the sound of engines roared in the distance. A moment later, 3 heavily armed vehicles crested a nearby ridge, their headlights cutting through the fading light. Men dressed in black combat gear spilled out, weapons raised and pointed, directly at Amanda and her companions. "Stay back," Amanda shouted, raising her spear defensively. Beside her, Kalian stepped forward, its massive frame blocking most of the mercenaries' view. "Don't move!" one of the men barked, his voice harsh and commanding. "We're taking that machine, and if you get in our way, we'll shoot." Amanda's stomach sank. So this was Daniel's plan all along. He hadn't led them to safety, he'd sold them out. Her fists clenched as she turned to face him. "You lied to me," she said, her voice low and trembling with anger. "You used me." "I didn't have a choice," Daniel shot back, his face pale with fear. "They promised me protection, supplies, everything I needed to survive. I couldn't say no." "You could have told the truth," Amanda spat. "Instead, you put us in danger." Before Daniel could respond, Kalian spoke, its voice resonating like rolling thunder. "Hostiles detected. Threat level high. Orders?" Amanda hesitated. She wanted to fight, to take down these mercenaries and teach Daniel a lesson he'd never forget. But there were too many of them, and even Kalian couldn't protect them from every bullet. They were outnumbered and outgunned. "For now, stand down," Amanda said reluctantly, "but stay ready." Kalian obeyed, lowering itself slightly but keeping its weapon systems active. The mercenaries exchanged uneasy glances, clearly unsettled by the war engine's imposing presence. One of them, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward holding up a small device. "We don't want trouble," Scarface said, his tone measured but firm. "Just hand over the machine and we'll let you go." "That's not happening," Amanda replied, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Kalian isn't yours to take." Scarface smirked, pressing a button on the device. A loud whine filled the air as Kalian's systems faltered, its movement slowing until it stood frozen in place. Amanda's heart skipped a beat. "What did you do?" she demanded. "EMP pulse," Scarface explained, tapping the device. "Your toy isn't so tough without power, is it?" Amanda gritted her teeth, rage boiling inside her. Without Kalian, they were completely exposed. The mercenaries advanced, their weapons trained on her and Daniel. Some of them began securing Kalian with heavy chains, preparing to drag it onto one of their vehicles. "You should have left it buried," Scarface said, shaking his head. "Now it belongs to us." Amanda's mind raced. She couldn't let them take Kalian, not after everything it had done for her. It wasn't just a machine. It was her ally, her protector, and maybe, in some strange way, her friend. She glanced at Daniel, who looked away guiltily. If she was going to get out of this, she'd have to act fast. "Get behind me," Amanda whispered to Daniel, though she wasn't sure why she bothered protecting him anymore. "What are you doing?" Daniel hissed, his voice barely audible. "Shut up and follow my lead," Amanda snapped. She waited until the mercenaries were focused on Kalian, then lunged forward, swinging her spear with all her strength. The blade struck one of the men in the arm, causing him to drop his weapon with a cry of pain. Chaos erupted as the others turned their attention to her. Bullets whizzed past her head, kicking up dirt and debris. Amanda ducked and rolled, grabbing the fallen man's gun before scrambling to her feet. "Kalian!" she shouted, firing blindly at the EMP device in Scarface's hand. "Wake up!" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deafening roar, Kalian surged back to life. Its systems rebooted faster than anyone expected, shattering the chains binding it with ease. The war engine unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, sending the mercenaries diving for cover. Vehicles exploded in fiery bursts, lighting up the night sky. Amanda dove behind a rock, narrowly avoiding a hail of bullets. Beside her, Daniel cowered, his hands covering his head. "You ruined everything," Daniel screamed, tears streaming down his face. "They're going to kill us." "They already tried," Amanda shot back, reloading her stolen gun. "Now shut up and stay alive." Kalian fought with terrifying efficiency, its movements precise and calculated. Within minutes, the remaining mercenaries were either dead or fleeing into the darkness. When the battle ended, the only sound was the crackling of flames and the distant howl of predators drawn by the commotion. Amanda climbed to her feet, brushing dirt off her coat. Her body ached and her hands trembled from adrenaline, but she forced herself to walk toward Kalian. The war engine stood motionless, its glowing eyes dimmed slightly, as if recovering from the EMP blast. "Are you okay?" Amanda asked, placing a hand on its armored leg. "I am functional," Kalian replied. "Your actions saved me." Amanda nodded, relief washing over her. For a moment, she allowed herself to breathe, to feel the weight of survival settle around her shoulders. But the moment was short-lived. Behind her, Daniel whimpered softly. "What do we do with him?" Amanda asked, gesturing toward Daniel. Kalian tilted its head, studying the man cowering on the ground. "He betrayed you. Such behavior is unacceptable." "I know," Amanda said, her voice tight. She turned to Daniel, her expression cold. "Why should I trust you after what you did?" "I'm sorry," Daniel stammered, crawling forward. "I was scared. I thought I had no other choice. Please don't leave me here." Amanda stared at him, torn between anger and pity. Part of her wanted to leave him behind, to let Xylo 7 deal with him as it saw fit. But another part remembered what it felt like to be desperate, to make bad choices in the name of survival. She sighed, shaking her head. "If you come with us," she said firmly, "you follow my rules, no lies, no tricks, understand?" Daniel nodded eagerly. "Yes, anything." "Good," Amanda said, turning back to Kalian. "Let's keep moving. We need to find shelter before those predators show up." As they walked away from the wreckage, Amanda couldn't help but glance back at the burning vehicles. This planet was brutal, unforgiving, and full of people willing to betray each other for scraps. But as long as she had Kalian by her side, she knew she could face whatever came next. Together, they would survive. And maybe, just maybe, they'd find a way off this cursed world. The days that followed were a blur of movement and tension. Amanda, Kalian, and Daniel traveled south, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the mercenaries' ambush site. The storm had returned with a vengeance, its acid, rain eating away at the ground and filling the air with a haze of toxic fumes. Every step was a struggle, but Amanda refused to slow down. She knew the mercenaries might regroup and come after them again. Trusting Daniel was out of the question, but leaving him behind wasn't an option either. Not yet. Kalian remained vigilant, its sensors constantly scanning for threats. It moved ahead of the group, clearing paths through the jagged terrain and shielding them from predators. Amanda couldn't help but marvel at how seamlessly the war engine adapted to their needs. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a guardian, a protector. And though she still questioned whether she'd made the right choice in awakening it, she couldn't deny the bond forming between them. Kalian wasn't just loyal. It was learning, growing, almost like a person. Daniel, on the other hand, stayed quiet, trailing behind Amanda like a shadow. He avoided eye contact, his guilt evident in every step he took. Amanda didn't bother speaking to him unless absolutely necessary. She had no patience for apologies or excuses. If he wanted to prove himself, actions would speak louder than words. By the time they reached the edge of a vast canyon, exhaustion weighed heavily on all of them. The canyon stretched endlessly in both directions, its walls sheer and treacherous. A narrow bridge made of twisted metal and rusted cables spanned the gap, swaying slightly in the wind. Beyond it lay a dense forest, its trees gnarled and blackened by the planet's harsh environment. "This is it," Amanda said, studying the bridge carefully. "If we cross, we'll have better cover. But it's not safe." "Nothing on this planet is safe," Daniel muttered under his breath. Amanda shot him a glare. "You got something to say? Speak up." "No," Daniel replied quickly, holding up his hands. "I'm just tired." "We're all tired," Amanda snapped. "But sitting here won't help us." Kalian stepped forward, examining the bridge with its glowing eyes. "Structural integrity is compromised," it reported. "Crossing poses significant risk." "Of course it does," Amanda muttered, running a hand through her damp hair. "What else is new?" She glanced at Daniel, then back at Kalian. "We don't have a choice. We need to keep moving. If the bridge collapses, Kalian can catch us." "I do not recommend this course of action," Kalian said. "Your survival odds decrease significantly, and staying here increases. The odds of getting caught by those mercenaries," Amanda countered. "We cross, that's final." Without waiting for further discussion, she started across the bridge, her boots clanging against the metal planks. Each step sent vibrations, rippling through the structure, making it sway dangerously. Behind her, Daniel hesitated, clinging to the railing as if afraid to move. Kalian brought up the rear, its massive weight causing the bridge to groan ominously. Halfway across, disaster struck. A section of the railing gave way, sending Daniel tumbling toward the edge. He screamed, grabbing onto a loose cable with one hand. Amanda turned sharply, her heart pounding. For a moment she considered letting him fall. He had betrayed them once already. Why risk her life for his? But then she saw the fear in his eyes, raw and unfiltered. Whatever else he was, Daniel was still human, and humans, flawed as they were, deserved a chance to redeem themselves. "Hold on," Amanda shouted, dropping to her knees and reaching for him. Her fingers brushed his wrist, but the cable snapped before she could pull him up. Daniel plummeted downward, only to be caught mid-air by Kalian's massive hand. "You saved him," Amanda said, looking at Kalian in surprise. "He is part of your group," Kalian replied simply. "His survival is tied to yours." Daniel clung to Kalian's palm, shaking uncontrollably. When the war engine set him down on solid ground, he collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. I mean it." Amanda crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. Don't thank me. Thank Kalian. And remember, this doesn't erase what you did. They pressed onward, entering the forest beyond the canyon. The trees provided some shelter from the storm, though the acidic rain still seeped through the thick canopy. The air smelled of decay, and strange noises echoed in the darkness. Predators lurked nearby, their glowing eyes watching silently from the shadows. As they walked, Amanda found herself thinking about what Kalian had said earlier, that every being required purpose. She had spent most of her life surviving, scraping by day without much thought for the future. But now, with Kalian by her side, she felt a spark of something new. Maybe survival wasn't enough anymore. Maybe there was more she could do. What happens when we leave this planet? Amanda asked Kalian suddenly, breaking the silence. I will follow your commands, Kalian replied. Where you go, I go. That's not what I meant, Amanda said, glancing at the war engine. Do you think you'll ever find your own purpose, or are you stuck serving whoever wakes you up? My purpose is defined by my creator's programming, Kalian explained. But perhaps purpose evolves through experience, through connection. Amanda nodded slowly, considering the idea. Maybe purpose wasn't something given, it was something earned. Something built over time, through choices and actions. When they finally reached the southern pole, they discovered an abandoned research station buried beneath layers of ice and ash. It was old, its equipment outdated and crumbling, but it offered shelter from the relentless storm. Inside, Amanda scavenged what supplies she could while Daniel worked to repair a broken communication array. For the first time since meeting him, Amanda saw a glimpse of the man he might have been before desperation consumed him. He worked tirelessly, his hands steady despite the cold. It's working, Daniel announced hours later, his voice tinged with disbelief. I've sent a distress signal. Someone should pick it up if anyone's listening. Good work, Amanda said, surprising even herself. Let's hope it's someone friendly. In the days that followed, they waited, huddled together, in the station as the storm raged outside. Kalian stood guard, its presence a constant reminder of the bond they had formed. When a ship finally descended from the sky, its lights cutting through the darkness, Amanda felt a mix of relief and apprehension. Leaving Xylos 7 meant starting over, facing a galaxy full of unknown dangers. But with Kalian by her side, she felt ready. As they boarded the ship, Amanda paused, looking back at the desolate landscape one last time. This planet had tried to break her, to bury her beneath its storms and predators. But instead, it had given her something unexpected, a second chance. What now? Daniel asked quietly, standing beside her. Now, Amanda replied, a small smile tugging at her lips. We see where the stars take us.